Hello, this is Rachel Stravelli. I'm so excited to see you today. And if you have any questions about today's topic of developing your intuition, please feel free to put them in the chat and I'll do my best to respond. I'm an inner nature teacher, so I help people to tap into their intuition, connect to their creativity, connect to the divine. And even though I teach this, I've had to learn these things myself going through life along the way. And before I did this video, I was thinking of a time many years ago when I was dating this guy who I was kind of crazy about, but every night, I kid you not, I would wake up in the middle of the night and think, I have to break up with him. But I was living in New Hampshire and working on a farm for the summer. He lived in Boston, and he was pretty much the only person I knew there. And I had taken that job for the summer so that I could connect with him and be close to him. Um, and I kept on ignoring these feelings that were coming up every day, like, you got to break up with him, you got to break up with him. And because I just felt like, oh, I don't know anybody else. What am I going to do if I'm not hanging out with him? And so I was nervous to take that step. Ultimately, the relationship fizzled out on its own. And if I would have listened to my intuition, I could have ended it sooner and maybe moved on to something greater, met somebody else who was new and interesting. And it reminds me of this one, I believe it's African proverb that says, no matter how far you go down the wrong road, turn back. And so you may have things in your life where you're thinking, I haven't been listening to my intuition. I have callings, I have urges, or gut instincts of things I should be doing, but I'm not doing them. And I think if I did, then I would be doing a lot better. Or maybe you're tuning in because you think, I don't even know what my intuition is. How do I know? How do I tap into it? So today I'm going to give you a few easy ways that you can start tapping into it. I will say, I believe it's a process. And so, just like with going to the gym or any other skill that you learn, it takes time. The first time when I go to the gym, I don't always like doing it. I'm out of breath. I have to force myself to do it. I don't think you have to force yourself to develop your intuition, but it is something that you will be developing over time. And so, one of the first things that I encourage you to do is to find a way that you can slow down in your life. If you are frantically, busily moving from one thing to the next, there's never a pause. Every moment is scheduled. Every day is rushed. You fall into sleep exhausted in your bed every night. If there is no time or no space to listen to silence or feel silence or take a walk, then you're going to have a really hard time tapping into your intuition because it is, some people describe it as the small, still voice within. And if it's small and it's still in this busy, loud world, you're not going to hear it. And so find a time every day when you can pause, when you cannot be receiving information in, when you can, maybe you go out in nature. I like to go work in my garden. I like to have beautiful natural things around me, flowers and plants. They help me to get grounded and connected to myself and to the divine and to listen. So slowing down. And it doesn't mean you have to slow down your whole life. But if you can find 5 minutes a day or two times where you have 5 minutes each, that's amazing. And if you can't do 5 minutes, start with 2 minutes. Another thing that I want you to do is try and identify when you can have some physical activity in your life. And it's great after the end of this physical activity if you can notice, are there certain pervasive thoughts or feelings that are coming up? Are there things that you always notice when you're working out? And however you like to keep track of information, whether it's a journal or on your phone or a notebook or whatever, I highly recommend that you start taking note of your thoughts, feelings, and hints and ideas and urges every day. So if you are into journaling, you can start a daily journal practice. If not, it could be on your phone that you just take out and you note things that you notice. A lot of intuition will also come to me in my dreams. And so I have a dream journal where I write down big things that come up that I have noticed. And the other big thing that you want to be journaling, and I have a specific notebook that is just for this. Over here, you may see a student gave this to me years ago. So, this is where I write down synchronicities that I notice. And so, here's the thing, when you are trying to tap into your intuition, as I said, you want to start slowing down. You also want to start developing greater focus and awareness because your intuition, your greater wisdom is already communicating with you, but you might just be like so much in the flow of life that you don't even notice. And what happens with anything in life, the more you start focusing on it and paying attention to it, the more you see of it. It was always there, but you just didn't notice. And that's the cool thing about intuition. So, one way that people think about it is intuition is the nonverbal, non rational, non logical information that we have that we're processing that our left brain or our language seeking part of ourselves doesn't know how to describe, doesn't know how to put into words. It does not mean that that information is not valid. And there are so many great things in our world right now, which were created by the use of logical, linguistic, linear left brain. But because our worlds are so focused on those, a lot of the left brain or right brain, pattern seeking, intuitive impressions are not always valued, but they are incredibly valuable. And if you look at any highly successful business person, doctor, writer, anyone who's at the peak of what they do, if you sit and connect and talk to them deeply about how they think they got there, they'll say all the typical things, but oftentimes they acknowledge that they made choices based on intuition, that their intuition gave them nudges or hints about things that they should do. And so that is one of the reasons why I think everyone should develop this skill because there's so much information that we have constantly coming at us, and it's hard to know what to focus on and how to live a life that's best for you. But your intuition is always going to be true to you, and it's always going to give the best information to you for your life. Sorry, I'm going to have to wrap up in 1 minute. And so find a place, it could be in a notebook, it could be on your phone, however you want to do it, where you start noticing the things. Now, some of the synchronicities that I'll notice, for example, this is one from a couple years ago. Today I was in the car listening to the radio, and right as they said the name Duncan on the radio, I looked up and saw a sign for someone named Duncan who was running for office. Not the same Duncan on the radio. This is how things show up for me in the world. You might not have that type of synchronicity. Also, what I'll note is if I have a hunch like, oh, I shouldn't go to this appointment today, or I need to do this for my daughter because, I need to help her prepare for this thing. And when I do, I realize, oh, it's really good that I prepared for that because these things happen that I didn't know were going to happen. And yet I was prepared. And I did it because of an intuitive hunch. Um, Also, and this one, I will have another YouTube video on this topic that I'm going to upload. And as soon as I do, I'll add a card. Um, it's really important to make sure that you are honoring and valuing yourself. If you aren't recognizing that your intuition and the information that you have is valuable and worthy of listening to, you're not going to listen to it. And so, it's really incredibly important to remember that you have value. Your inner dreams, desires, and wishes are important. And I'm not just saying that to be like, oh, you're so special. Let me give you a hug. Like, yeah, you're special. But what I mean is, there's a lot of times when, because of either people in your life or your workplace or mass media, people can start to feel like they aren't important and they don't matter, or that your voice isn't important, or that your presence in the world is not valuable. And I'm sorry, but that's not true. Like, you are incredibly, immensely important. I don't believe that you would be here if you weren't. Does that mean you're going to be like an Olympic gold medalist? I don't know, maybe. But what it does mean is that no matter how you've been treating yourself up until this point, if you have been practicing negative self talk, if you've been not valuing yourself or being around people who don't value you, it's easy to start to believe that you don't have value. But you do. And the more that you listen to your intuition and start to value yourself and have boundaries, the more impact you start to have on your life, the more you realize, like, wow, I am a powerful person. I do have a good voice. I can speak up. And it really starts to have amazing impacts on your life. So like I said, next week or later this week, I'm going to upload a video about boundaries and I'll put the card there for you. And please reach out to me. I've got my website below if you want to know more about developing positive inner self-talk, tapping into your intuition and all of that. I'm so happy that you tuned in today. Share comments or questions below, and I hope to connect with you soon. This is Rachel signing off. Feel free to subscribe or like this video. Thanks. Bye.